Today, I am joined by the amazingly talented and inspiring Ryan Vona. Ryan is an incredible actor, singer, and songwriter. Ryan has been a part of four Broadway shows: Beautiful, the Carole King Musical, Paramour, and Once. He currently stars in the Broadway show Parade as a standby for the role of Leo Frank. He also has an album titled Somebody and a single called Easily. Thank you so much, Ryan, for joining me on the Inspiration Show. It's such an honor to speak with you.
No, thank you for having me, Allison.
I have your permission to post this episode of The Inspiration Show on social media.
Sure do.
Thank you. So, when did you discover that you had a passion for singing and theater?
Um, Probably it was early. It was like around I was like 10, 11 years old doing we had like our sixth grade musical and everybody was kind of forced to do these. They were compulsory. And then I got to liking it. And then when the seventh and eighth grade musical happened, like I kept doing it because all my friends were doing it. And then I just kind of kept on going while everybody fell off. And I just I just felt,
Yeah,
yeah, compelled to do it then.
I love it. And I've never actually heard of school musicals being compulsory. I mean, speaking from personal experience, I go to an art school, so like we do a show every year, and like I study theater, so of course we're bound to do shows, but I don't want to use the word forced, but I love how you were like, okay, you have to do it because like like for school you
Yeah,
have to, and like four Broadway shows now, like it's incredible.
yeah, forced is a bad word, but it was like I grew up and we very much valued the arts where it came from. So everybody was playing an instrument, everybody was in the choir, and then up until a certain age, and then you could kind of choose for yourself. But I'm really thankful that I was very much pushed in at a young age to kind of open my horizons to this thing that is now my career.
I love it. So, what would you say really inspired you to become a performer, and who has been an inspiration of yours throughout your career?
Um, what inspired me to become a performer uh, was just it was when I was in high school and doing shows, and then my friends who were older than me started going to school for theater and making uh, the light bulb pop up that that was actually a thing you could study in school and actually do for a career, and like not just in the kind of A-list Hollywood way. It was like a way that you could make a living. Um, and so that everybody who came before me inspired me. And I looked up to Norbert Leo Butz and Brian Darcy James were always big. But then as far as there's one performer I've always loved. His name is Johnny Flynn. He's a Brit, and um, I've seen him do Shakespeare, but he's a songwriter and a poet and an actor, and he kind of just takes everything that he loves and he folds it into his work, and that's kind of always been something that I strive to do.
That's amazing. And going back to what you said earlier, yeah, it's so awesome because I feel like a lot of performers now who have worked professionally didn't realize that you can take a passion and turn it into a career. And I think
Yeah,
it's special when you get to do what you love because, when you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. And I just think it's so special.
I'll say.
So, can you take us back to the first time you experienced theater and how you were feeling at the time?
Um, I would say my first foray into theater, I was uh, taken by my friend's mother. There was a community theater in our town, and every month, whenever they put up on a show, she would take me and my friend Sam, and we would go down to the Turtle Lane Playhouse and catch whatever show it was that they were putting on, whether it was Joseph and Mason Dreamcoat, Jekyll and Hyde, production of the Full Monty, uh, which we were front row for,
I
and
love
at
that.
too at too young an age. But I just remember spending evenings in that little playhouse watching these shows, and it was just that it was the highlight of my month. Always going to see these shows with them, uh, and so even as an audience member, it wasn't just like the I want to do that. It was just the joy I get from watching theater and seeing people in performance.
Yeah, it's
Um, yeah.
Yeah, it's the two greatest feelings in the world because when you're sitting in the audience, you're like transferred into the story and it feels like you're in a whole new world. But when
Uh-huh.
you're on stage telling that story, it's such a different feeling and it's just so amazing to experience both those things.
Yeah. I'm always more nervous as an audience member, I feel. I don't know what it is, but like before like the lights go down, I always get like real nervous about like for the performers for some reason. Though like when it's me up there, it's not as big a deal. I don't know what it is. But
I really like that perspective.
yeah. Yeah, it's I guess it's my one night with whatever story I'm seeing, so it's the anticipation is always more than like if it's the same story I'm telling 8 times a week, you know?
Yeah, definitely. So you have starred in four Broadway shows, but reflecting on the three you have done in the past, Beautiful Once and Paramour, what was your experience like getting to be a part of these productions, and how do you feel that these shows impacted you and shaped you as an actor and a performer?
Um, well, I would say so my first Broadway show was Once, and uh, I left school to do that. So I kind of like took my education, put it behind me, and came into this setting. And what once taught me, other than uh, juggling 6 different instruments and all that craziness, um, but was that the education doesn't stop
Mhm.
in the classroom. And we were in this theater actually, and I was learning from the great David Patrick Kelly and Nathan, these Broadway vets, and Paul Nolan, and every night just and Katrina Lenk, and just the things that they taught me. It was unlike anything from school because like you're actually doing the thing, and so the kind of lessons that you learn are a lot steeper and a lot quicker. The stakes are higher, but but you never stop learning, and that was the best part of it. The music director for that show, um, Martin Lowe, always said that his goal with any cast member uh, was not that they be a perfect musician, but that they leave this show a better musician than when they came in. And so it was like we're never striving for perfection, but we're striving for growth, and
Mhm.
that always stuck with me.
Yeah, and that growth that you get to take with you, when continuing to do a whole bunch of other shows. And I can't imagine how full circle it is for you doing your first show at the Jacobs and now currently being at the Jacobs. I can't
Yeah.
imagine how full circle that is.
Oh, it's lovely. Yeah, I'm just happier than
Yeah.
anything. Um, yeah, and so then I did Paramour, which was it was with Cirque du Soleil. So I would say that the lessons on that one, uh, well, it was a circus at the time, so I would say it was my first time creating a show, and it was my first so building something from the ground up and at such a scale. There were a lot of curveballs, and um, it was it was a true course in just like going with the punches, improvisation, uh, and living life in the circus because we to a much smaller scale acting is a circus. The circus people that they're that's that's a whole thing, and the life they live is just like extravagant in like what they put their bodies to. But we as performers we put our bodies to like pretty extreme lengths, and so there's a lot of self-care going into that. And so I learned a lot of tricks on how to take care of myself and be able to sustain a life in the theater, because we had some acrobats who were in their 40s and they were flying around the theater, and it's like
Wow.
I could never imagine myself at 30 uh, doing any of those things. But when you take care of yourself and really stay engaged in your craft, you can do anything as long as you have the heart and the passion for it.
Yeah, and especially with acting, of course your voice is your instrument because you're singing, but really your whole body is your instrument because, you're acting. It's not just like through your lines that you speak, it's through like your
Hmm.
posture and the way you use your body to portray a character. And of course, if there's dancing in the show, taking care of yourself is a really big component of that.
It's huge. Yeah, self-care.
Yep. So out of all the roles that you have stepped into, is there one that you feel best represents you?
Is there one that best represents me? I did feel a real connection to the role I played in Once, Andre. He's a very kind of a sensitive soul, and I feel um, he's a character that I brought most of myself to in terms of that experience. I like to now just sort of not keep them as personal, but make kind of distance the characters in a more fun, uh, playing in the sandbox kind of way. But and, but yeah, I would say Andre. He was just he had goals and he has ambition and just like a heart of gold. Um, and that's he was all the little things that I liked about myself when I was young.
I love that. And it's so special when you get to see actors bringing themselves into a role because
Mhm.
no matter how many actors play that role, it's all going to be done differently because of what they bring and who they are. And I just think it's so
Absolutely.
special when you get to play a character that's like you. And it's also a fun little take on when you play a character that's absolutely nothing like you. That's the fun thing
Yeah,
about acting is because you never know whose shoes you're stepping into until you open a script.
exactly. Totally.
It's it's awesome.
Yeah.
So you are currently a part of the Broadway show Parade as a standby for
Hmm.
the role of Leo Frank. Parade tells the true story of Leo and Lucille Frank, who were a Jewish couple living in Georgia when Leo is falsely accused of a crime he didn't commit. The show teaches us lessons of humanity, faith, trust, love, and justice. Can you share with us a little bit about your parade journey leading up to this point?
My parade journey is very long. So it started in 2007, um, or probably in the years before that, I was introduced to it, but um, I did a production of it at my high school. Um, and it was like the um, for like doing theater, it was the penny drop moment of like this is what I want to spend the rest of my life doing. Uh, just like the experience of that summer and the experience of this show, it did something that I didn't know theater could do. And the with like the tangible just humanity of this piece that Alfred and Jason created back in '98. That these are real people and we're telling a real story and we're affecting people. And I was at like a young age. Um, it stuck with me, and uh, I remember that summer my director took us to uh, the Mount Carmel Cemetery in uh, out here in New York, and we went to see Leo's grave and pay our respects to it, and uh, that moment really stuck with me, and for as I've been doing theater, and yeah, and then we got the chance all these years later to audition for it, and uh, yeah, it's been an absolute dream come true.
Yeah, and I want to go back to what you said because it really sums it up perfectly for me as well that you didn't know theater could do that. Because there aren't
Mhm.
many stories that are 100% real. I mean, of course, nothing really is 100% real, but this is a true story and it was real people. And, for it to be told through theater, because I personally think theater and music is the perfect way to convey a story so emotional and so important and so timely. And I think it's so special that you did it in high school and it was really that show that made you want to do it and now doing it on Broadway, stepping into the title role, if you will, all these years
Yeah,
later, as you say in your Instagram,
yeah,
Rye Guy, like it's so special because you played young soldier in high school, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, yeah.
Now to be a standby for Leo, I can't imagine how special it is for you to be
Oh
doing the
yeah.
show on Broadway that made you fall in love with theater, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. And my dream is in 25 years, I'll get to play the old soldier and it'll be
Oh,
a good full circle.
I
Um,
love that.
yeah.
So, when you were first given the script for this incredible piece of theater, how did you approach it and interpret this story and these characters, knowing that it is a true story and that it is real people?
Yeah. Just kind of there is you step into it as yourself, and then you have to step into it as a person who existed over 100 years ago. Um, and uh, yeah, you're going on this journey that Alfred's created, um, and just it's all about recognizing the truth of um, what Leo went through, and yeah, I would say that we. Sorry, I just had a very big mind break, but uh, ooh, sorry. Yeah, it's you just have to. I think I have to distance myself a little bit from the story, but um, yeah, you just have to.
Yeah, it
Sorry about that.
worried. It's such a powerful, impactful story. And the lessons that you take away from this show, it's just so incredible. And the impact that it's had on me personally, I mean, there's no possible way for me to put it into words, but I can't imagine what it's going to be like experiencing the show live and,
Mhm.
seeing it being told on a stage right in front of me versus, on my phone.
Oh, exactly. Instead of on TikTok.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. So
yeah.
after rehearsals and an incredible run at New York City Center, many incredible previews on Broadway, and now officially being open on Broadway, how does it make you feel to be the one telling this story? And what elements of the show inspire you? And what positive messages have you taken away from Parade so far personally?
It's just like a dream to be a part of this company. And so I think essentially that's what it is to be a member of this company. This it's when you see it, it's other versions have varied slightly, and it feels a bit more like here's the star of the show, here's and the soloists. But with this piece that Michael's created, it's truly an ensemble, um, which uh, affects me in like many different ways. Uh, Firstly, you're when you step out and you're doing a solo or anything, you feel 100% supported by this group. You never feel like you're the one out there just like out on a limb. Like you feel like you're doing this with a group of people, no matter what you're doing. Um, and yeah, that and also knowing that it takes a community of people on both sides. It took a community of people in 1913 to hate the way they did and have the amount of vitriol that caused all these dominoes to fall the way they did for Leo. Um, but then also, it takes an ensemble of people today to fight for the justice in the world, and um, it's going to take even more than that to get us to a place where we can finally have that justice every day.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, that's what it feels like, kind of being a part of this ensemble. Is you feel like you're part of that community uh, that's moving us forward.
That was so beautifully said, and I agree really with everything you said. And it's just so special to see how you are changing the world and impacting every single audience member that sees the show. And I'm just so happy that the cast album came out. So if you cannot make it to New York, you can hear these songs and hear elements of the story because it's so beautifully told and just so well done by all of you. So, alongside being a star on Broadway, you are also a singer-songwriter. Your album Somebody was released in 2016, and you have a single called Easily, which was released in 2021. What is your process like when you create an album or a song, and what inspires you when writing?
Um, a lot of things. Uh, I so I write kind of more from a personal place or a personal need, um, and so whether it's happiness or grief or love or that, and so when like compiling an album or sort, it's I think it's more the outside forces kicking me in the butt saying you have to put this music out there. Whereas like the writing is usually kind of it's selfish, it's just for me. Um, and so when putting together an album, it's all about kind of putting yourself into it. And it has to be your whole self, your whole true self. And it doesn't have to be because you listen to a lot of albums that are not that way. But for me, if I'm going to make an album or say something and put it into the world, I just want it to be true, and I want it to just speak of my life at that moment and that time.
I mean, getting to share your truth with people is so special. And, doing it through song, like having it done through a melody or through the lyrics and just all the different components that come together to create a song or to create an album. It's so special and it tells a story
Mm-hmm.
through a completely different perspective in a completely different medium.
Yeah.
And it's just so, so special to listen to. Do you have like a specific process that you stick to when writing? Because I know a lot of artists like to start with the chorus, or do you write like in order, or do you like do some mind maps? Do you have anything that you like to do when kind of planning?
I usually start from like an instrumentation first. So I'll kind of put like a chord structure together, and then something. It was Adam Gettle. He was giving a talk, and he kind of laid out his process that I took to very well. And it was he would sit down, he'd play the chords, and then he would just sing ahs and just like random melodic melodies, and that would be his song. That would be Light in the Piazza. That would be anything. And then the words would then reveal themselves to him like through just what he was singing. And so um, that kind of was imprinted in me and is sort of the process that I follow as well.
Mhm. I love that. And I have to ask, if you had to pick a song of yours that you would say represents you best, do you have one?
Yeah, I would say probably easily the that single I have. It's very much um, lessons that I've been taught from uh, people in my life, from my father, from uh, that, um, and it's sort of a philosophy that I have to tell myself to live by.
It's so special, and to have that through music, just to listen to and to put that out in the world and share it with everyone. It's so amazing how people get to learn from each other and grow.
Yeah,
So, looking back on everything you have achieved in this industry, what advice would you give to your younger self entering the industry?
I would say to stay curious. That for an artist, and not even just for the arts, for if you're a scientist, if you're a banker, if you're a lawyer, your curiosity is your biggest asset. And asking questions on how can I make this better? How can I make this more true? And um, yeah, just never stop learning and never stop teaching, because the moment we stop learning, the moment it doesn't become worth it, you know?
Mhm.
It's, yeah, there's always something new.
There's always something out there to learn and something to be inspired by, and it'll help you grow.
Exactly.
Ryan, thank you so much for joining me on the Inspiration Show. You are incredible, and it was such an honor to speak with you. Thank you for inspiring me.
Thank you. It was such a pleasure to meet you, Allison.